Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of From No Crypto to No Crypto. I'm your host, the Crypto Coach, Blockchain Wayne. Today we're joined by Dan from Validity Base. Dan, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for having me on your podcast. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely looking forward to find out what you guys are doing. I've kind of browsed your site with Validity Base and want to learn more about that. But man, before we jump into that, can you give us a little bit of insight into kind of your background? Like, what did you do? What did you do before you got into this space? And then we'll dive into Validity Base here shortly.
Yeah, sure, of course. So I came from the finance world. So I graduated from business school. It was 13 years ago now, and I took a job in equity investing. And just by chance, the first sector that I started looking at as an equity investor was payments and financial technology. This was back in 2012, and so I kind of went super deep on kind of how the payment system is organized and how kind of the different technologies integrate together and the different incentives and what have you. And then sometime in 2013, I came across Bitcoin, and it kind of rocked my world. I was like, wow, all these different things I was thinking about in terms of the payment system, like, this guy, figured out a whole different way to look at it, and so innovative and awesome. So that kind of started my crypto journey. I mean, it was early days in crypto world, so I wasn't kind of quite sure what to do with it except run around and tell everybody about it. But I ended up starting a fund, like a crypto trading fund, in 2018 that did systematic trading in traditional crypto and eventually in DeFi products as well. Um, and as the fund grew, I had people coming to me and asking me if their strategy could fit under our fund. So if we could seed them, or if we could hire them as a portfolio manager with the fund. And the question I always had is, well, how do you trust that what you're seeing is the real deal? Somebody puts a spreadsheet in front of you. They made a ton of money based on that spreadsheet, but as the capital allocator, as the investor, how do you know that the worst day of observations hasn't been taken out as an outlier, or for whatever reason? And there's a saying in finance that no capital allocator has ever seen a bad back test. And this kind of very much falls under the same umbrella where you don't know. Did the person run 1,000 strategies and they're showing you the best one? How do you get to the bottom of that? But we, as a fund, thought really seriously, like, how do we do business with these people? How do we bring on these talented folks that are coming to us, seemingly in good faith? And how do we start working with them? And that was the genesis of Validity Base.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I can definitely see that, man. I mean, nobody wants to show you their bad, their bad apples, their bad eggs, and all that. So yeah. Now, quick question about when you got involved in Bitcoin in the early days. You mentioned you couldn't do much with it at the time, other than run around and tell people. Um, just for curiosity, because we've all experienced a lot of the same things. But what was that like when you were tell people about Bitcoin? Did it have more validity because you were in the payment space, or what kind of reactions did you get?
Yeah, people took me seriously, as seriously as one might expect. I was at Fidelity as an equity investor at the time, and I did a big presentation to the whole kind of all the investment professionals, maybe 50 plus people, and people were really tuned in. I don't think people kind of took it to heart, but they kind of thought I was crazy and a little out there, but they took it seriously enough.
Yeah, maybe you were one of the ones. I mean, I think about it. Fidelity was one of the earlier, institutions to really take a serious look at Bitcoin and in general. So, you possibly played a part in that, right?
Yeah, push the wheel along a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's dive into validity base. I mean, you told us a little bit about it, and I got to tell you, kind of. And I was wondering where that would come from. You did a great intro to it a second ago as to why you launched validity base. Because as I was going through your documents and the website, I was like, okay, how I was looking at the different ways this could be used. So obviously, verifying, you know, data coming from funds or fund managers. What other types of services have you seen or use cases for validity base?
So that's the one we're focused on primarily. The problem runs pretty deep because it's a question of If data goes from point A to point B and then from point B to point C, how does the person at point C know that they're getting the data from point A? And it's a fundamental problem because you get a spreadsheet, you get a file, you get a database, whatever it is, you really can't very easily know where it came from or who made it. And so blockchains are a very natural solution to this problem because they provide a single source of truth that shows you who created a piece of data and when it was created. So there's a lot of domains where this can be useful. And so we're seeing people um, building some adjacent technologies to ours in the healthcare space, in scientific research in general with experimental data, in Internet of Things, sensory data, and even in this kind of whole digital media fake, deep fake type problem, because you can use our technology or a similar technology to trace where a particular image came from or where a particular soundbite came from. You know, did it come from the president or is it a deep fake of the president? So you can use our technology to answer that sort of question. It's not where we're focused on at the moment, but it's kind of certainly out there.
Yeah, man, those deep fakes are getting really good. I could definitely see that. What about like court records, house records, things like that? Like when, first thing popped in my mind when you were saying verifying data is like I think about, and I just gave a talk to some realtors. It's probably why it's on my mind too. But just the whole process to close on a house, like even if someone has the funds right away, a lot of times they're having to do these title searches just to pay someone to search records to make sure that that title is free and clear and that the person selling it actually has the ownership to sell it, and how that could all be solved with putting data on chain.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've come to really recognize as I've been working in the space developing solutions is that the solution you want to develop for any real world problem has to be very narrowly tailored. And so I don't want to speak too much to the title problem because I don't know it that well. But of course, the same general elements are there where having a single source of truth that everybody can rely on and everybody can kind of know where a particular piece of information or file or record came from is really valuable. I'll give you an example. So using our technology, if you go to our application, app.vbase.com, you can take any file and stamp it with your identity and with the time at which you're saying, I have this data effectively. And so let's say you've got a PDF, let's say you're Harvard University, and you've got a PDF that says, this is a diploma for Wayne. He graduated in June of 2024. And you go to our to app.vbase.com and you stamp it. So now you put on blockchain and you say Harvard University has committed this data on chain, and now they send you the PDF. Well, what's really cool about that is when you send the PDF to a potential employer, and that employer sends that PDF to a identity verification company, and that identity verification company sends it somewhere else, all of those people all along the chain can just with a single click check and see that, hey, Harvard University issued this PDF. And so what I'm looking at is the real deal and kind of the authentic document. And that comes up in all sorts of business transactions and kind of just life in general.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, yeah, I mean, the people that aren't going to like this are the ones that try to fake those diplomas, and I guess the same reason for AI, whether it's a fake document or fake video or fake image, they're getting really good. Like it's almost indistinguishable by looking at it. So that
Yeah, and eventually it will be 100% indistinguishable. There's no fundamental reason why you should be able to tell what is AI and what isn't.
right, yeah, I'm already seeing that already. With some of the models we've seen lately, where it's almost impossible to tell. Some of the earlier stuff, and I say earlier, I mean I'm not going back years, just really, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, there was some certain flaws in AI generated images, and you're already seeing that being solved. Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of scary good.
yeah. So, I mean, what you mentioned in terms of diplomas, being able to verify that. So the full, like, I guess the full identity stack could be utilized for people because I see, I talk to different companies are developing um, digital IDs, right? Decentralized digital IDs that can verify someone's credentials. Have you guys talked to any or worked with any of those companies that are building those um, digital IDs, decentralized identities that? Because obviously you're going to link credentials to it.
Yeah, we're focused on this financial data use case. So we haven't spent much time on the credentials element. Where ID is really important for us, and actually for everybody who's working in this space, is at the end of the day, when Harvard University signs a transaction, they sign it with some sort of cryptographic identity with a wallet, and then tying that cryptographic identity back to a real person or a real institution is a challenge and is something that um, we're not really looking to solve that. We're looking to work with other people who are solving that problem. But that link in the chain is really important because what we allow people to do is to establish and build a cryptographic online reputation for any particular address or wallet. But then tying that online reputation to somebody's offline identity, that's a whole kind of different can of worms.
Gotcha. Absolutely. So, kind of simply to break it down, I mean, you guys have designed a use case to put that data on chain, but without going too technical, what is the process? Say you're working with a financial institution or company that wants to put that data on chain. How does that process work?
Yeah, so what we allow anybody with an investment or trading track record to do is to build a low-cost, institutional-grade verified track record of their past history of trading or investment activity. And so it's low cost because it's effectively automated. We're replacing an auditor or a highly manual process involving expensive third parties with an automated process where the blockchain serves as a single source of truth. The way it works is you send, you basically take a hashed version of your data or trading activity on, say, a daily basis or an hourly basis, and you use validity-based technology to publish that hash or publish that digital fingerprint on chain. And when you take those fingerprints and you combine them over successive days and over months or what have you, you generate a fully verifiable track record of what your trading activity was or what your portfolios were at a particular point in time. And then our tools take that record and validate it with kind of dashboards or with Python API tools.
Gotcha. And so I guess my next question is from a like a privacy standpoint. It seems like if they're creating a cryptographic hash, does that help with privacy of data? Like, are you guys even able to read that data, or are you just verifying that data was put on chain?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that actually is one of the big selling points of what we're doing is a lot of people, for obvious reasons, are hesitant to share their trades or portfolios with third parties. And in our case, we just help effectively. Our technology is just an easy button for taking hashes and publishing them on chain and then verifying them later. So we never actually take possession or need to take possession of the underlying data, and we never need to see the underlying data. So you can create a fully institutionally credible track record, never sharing the data with anybody. Now, when you want to go raise capital, you have to show the portfolios to somebody for them to be able to validate that what you put on chain matches what you had. But at that point, it's kind of in the context of a trusted relationship, and you're not doing that on a broad basis. It's all one to one.
Gotcha. So they would control sharing that key to decrypt that encrypted information, so that whoever they got the relationship with can validate it, right?
That's exactly right. So we never need to see it. In some cases, it's helpful for us to see it to provide quality of life tools. So if you want us to do some fancy things with the data and then present it to allocators in a particular way, well, then we do need to see it. But we don't have to. And a lot of people are working with us without showing us the data.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Another question. So in terms like when you think about um in the ethos of this blockchain space, where one of the things I've seen with a lot of blockchain applications is that it's very fragmented, right? You can use this on chain, but you have to use all of our tools. So if someone has another set of tools, like do they have to use VBase to upload the. I mean, I know they have to use it to get the data available and verifiable, but to someone else to verify it. Like, if say they're using a different program, is it? Do they have to stay within your ecosystem, or can they use other tools?
Yeah, so we have built everything to be a open protocol. So validity base is an easy button for using the VBase protocol, but it's absolutely not required to use the validity based tools in order to use the VBase protocol. So what that means is that the VBase smart contract sits out in public. And anybody can generate calls and create transactions for the VBase smart contract independently of validity based the company. And the same thing on the verification side. So in fact, we even try to make that process easier for people. We've created some Dune Analytics dashboards that people can use to verify their data, and we're in the process of building some other verification tools as well. We actually see it as a huge virtue that people don't feel locked into us. Because if you think about it, for the perspective of a trader or an investor who is building their business around a track record, being able to control that track record and own that track record in kind of like the sovereign I own my Bitcoin, sense of the word, is a huge deal, because you're going to be using that for years or maybe decades if you continue to run your business. And so relying on a third party to create that track record or verify it is convenient for all sorts of reasons for quality of life, but you don't want to be locked into a particular third party for that. And so, we think that our architecture addresses that need quite well.
So it's built to last, basically, and be verifiable, even if not saying it would, but God forbid, VBase doesn't exist anymore. Everything is still there and available, because in some of those walled garden situations, companies gone, everything else is going with it.
That's exactly right. So currently we post hashes, we post commitments to the Polygon blockchain. So as long as there's copies of Polygon out there, you'll be able to continue to validate your track record, for decades, if not longer. As long as the smart contract continues to exist, you can continue to build your track record even without validity base. And the other big virtue, as I think a lot of your listeners are probably aware of this open architecture, is that it's highly interoperable. It means that we, validity based, don't control the way that the data is structured in the database, and we can't arbitrarily change it, which means that people can, with high confidence, build their own tools, build their own APIs to access this data and to interact with this data. And there's no toll keeper in the form of validity base that kind of regulates that activity, or that can prevent it from happening.
Nice. And look, that's so important. That's why I brought up that question about. I mentioned how blockchain, some of the blockchain tools and protocols and stuff out there are fragmented, because some people have taken those same centralized walled garden systems and replicated them on chain. And it's not, you're not, it's just centralized 2.0 basically, and so it's important to have that. And you also answered one of my next questions, which is going to be which blockchains you use. Is it strictly Polygon for right now?
So at the moment we use Polygon. The smart contract's an EVM compatible smart contract, so deploying to a different chain is a matter of a few hours. We think Polygon's a good mix of cost and speed of transactions and long-term reliability, but from our perspective, it's customer driven. If we had a user that asked us for a different chain, it's fairly trivial for us to switch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was assuming you would have said base because of the name, but I get it. Definitely. I would choose
No,
Polygon.
or unconnected to Coinbase or to Base.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So, say someone's listening to this, or they come across this podcast and they're wanting to start using validity base. How would they go about that?
So a couple different things. So our website with a bunch of information on how we work and why things are set up as they are is vbase.com. Our application, our graphical application, is at app.vbase.com. So somebody could sign up with just an email password and start making blockchain commitments and start verifying blockchain commitments. It's free. The first 100 commitments per month are free. If you are a trader or an investor who wants to make a track record, at the moment, the best thing to do is to go to our contact page at vbase.com/contact and get in touch with us, because we'll want to help you get set up. It's not 100% full service, but but the process is pretty simple from there.
Okay, nice. And you mentioned earlier in the podcast, it's very low cost. I mean, I love that whole that model that you mentioned where the with the you said the first 100, I think validations are free each month.
Yeah, so the first 100 stamps per month are free. Validations at the moment are in free, kind of in as many as you want. 100 stamps a month is, we find that typically people want to stamp a portfolio per day. So 100 stamps a month is up to 5 strategies that somebody's running. If you're running more than 5, then we have a monthly plan, which is $50 a month, so fairly reasonable. Our business model in general is, if you want to use the validity-based protocol and you want to use the tools that are kind of sitting there and available, then it should be easy and it should be very inexpensive because these are all automated tools. If you have some custom requirements, or if you want it more in kind of a full managed service, then we'll be able to help you, and we'll charge for that.
That's good to know. So also, I mean, you mentioned that what your focus is right now on the financial side, but and you're not really focused on some other use cases we talked about just yet, even though it's possible. Would someone have to interact? Like, if someone's like, "Hey, I'd love to use that for this," do they need to consult with you guys first to be able to do that, or if the capability is there, they could just start using it?
The capability is all there. So we have an open Python SDK that anybody can pick up and start using, very quickly, especially if they're already, Web3 and blockchain conversant. So in terms of using Validity Base as almost infrastructure, somebody who understood what they wanted to use it for could pick up and go without even talking to us.
Awesome, awesome. So, as we start to wrap up, we definitely shared, how everybody can get in touch with you, follow you, get on the website as well. But socials, are you guys available to follow on socials to keep up what's happening at Validity Base?
Yeah, so we're on LinkedIn under a company named Validity Base, and we're on Twitter, but we're not as active on Twitter as we ought to be. So I'll leave it off for now. And then yeah, email, etc. is a good way to reach us.
Yeah, LinkedIn would make perfect sense for you guys. X is Twitter is kind of a minefield there. So yeah, I mean, I would think your ideal client or the people you're looking forward to work with or to use Validity Base would be on LinkedIn. So it definitely makes sense. All right, Dan. I mean, it's been a pleasure having you on today. Any last words for our guests before we wrap up?
No, it's been a pleasure speaking with you, Wayne. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and have a chance to talk to your audience too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks everybody for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.